So we've officially hit Bethesda levels with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077. As in this video, what I'm going to do is actually highlight to you some recent mod releases or mod updates that fix fundamental features of Cyberpunk 2077. One of the big ones that was just officially posted by CDPR support yesterday was how there's actually a critical bug in the game allowing users to gain access to your PC if you are downloading mods. Unfortunately, modders have already fixed that for us, but even beyond that, there are actually several features in Cyberpunk 2077, whether it be perks or mods, that simply don't work. Like there's some perks which you may have not realized are actually doing absolutely nothing unless you now have the appropriate mod to fix it. But before that, I do want to mention a message from today's video's sponsor, Traplight Games and Battle Legion. Battle Legion's pretty unprecedented in being a mass battle strategy game with exciting 100 versus 100 unit player versus player battles, which you could download for free using my link in the description for either iOS or Android. In Battle Legion, you can design your own large-scale armies with tons of unique units featuring special abilities and of course all kinds of skins and power stones to customize them even further. Then you could bring that army to battle in the main PvP mode, some skirmish puzzles, the bounty hunt mini missions, and even epic clan raid bosses. New game modes, units, and even ranks are constantly coming, and the game has a very active community on Discord and even weekly streams on YouTube. The most recent update featured some pretty epic clan raid battles, so you can work together with your clan to defeat intense bosses. Battle Legion is free to download right now, and you can use my link in the description to both support this channel and get the game for yourself. So looking back at Cyberpunk 2077, let's first off make your game a bit safer. And really as just a good intro and really verification of this, CD Projekt support again tweeted this out. They say, if you plan to use Cyberpunk game mods / custom saves on PC, use caution. We've been made aware of a vulnerability in external DLL files the game uses which can be used to execute code on PCs. Issue will be fixed ASAP. For now, please refrain from using files from unknown sources. And basically what it seems like happened is there actually is a vulnerability in Cyberpunk 2077 where if you're downloading certain mods or certain save games, the game will be able to actually run code on your PC itself, which can be very bad and of course be used for some quite malicious means. And something not actually mentioned in this tweet, it seems like this exploit or vulnerability was actually found and fixed by the Cyberpunk 2077 community modders. So several days ago, the Cyber Engine Tweaks mod actually released an update that addressed this vulnerability several days before this tweet was even sent out. So at least as of right now, you can download Cyber Engine Tweaks and it should actually fix this problem. Likely we'll see a hotfix or patch by CDPR in the coming weeks to address this also. That big February patch is expected at some point in the next couple of weeks. Now the convenient part about this is if you are actually modding Cyberpunk, as you'll see in this video with several of the mods we talk about, they do require you download Cyber Engine Tweaks anyway, but just if you are somebody who's playing on PC and modding the game, I would definitely recommend downloading the latest version, as that's the version that contains this vulnerability fix. And it seems like if you have that installed, you should be safe. But to summarize the situation, it very much seems like modders were digging through the files and kind of decompiling some of the files of Cyberpunk. That's how they're making some of these mods we'll talk about, and in the process discovered a vulnerability, actually fixed that vulnerability, and perhaps reported it to CD Projekt, and then a couple of days later, CD Projekt sent out this tweet. And although that of course is a critical fix for the game, especially if you are modding it, you definitely want to have this installed, but we also have some other pretty critical fixes that will actually enhance your gameplay. One of the first of which is the gameplay patches mod. This actually only came out 2 days ago, and it's a vital mod that you're almost certainly going to want to download. So something I think not many people realize is in Cyberpunk 2077, several mods, as in the mods you could add to armors, weapons, cybernetics, as well as several perks, just don't work. Some of these don't stack, so you put the same mod on all your different armor pieces and they don't actually stack or they're canceling out, or even some of the perks just do nothing if you load a save game, which is pretty much always. And as you could probably guess, this mod will fix that. So one of the key mods it actually affects is the Deadeye mod, this applying crit damage and crit chance. Typically it seems like this doesn't work at all, but after using this mod, you hit a key to apply a patch and then the mod will kick in and start working. It still seems to have some issues with stacking. That might be an intended feature though, not actually a bug, but now you'll deal more damage with crits and in general crit more often because the mod's actually applying to your armors. Kata Resist is another huge one. Basically what this is a cybernetic implant that will increase all of your resistances. So if you've been using this in game, it seems like the vast majority of the time it doesn't function at all, and I could really feel it, as after using the legendary legendary variant of this, I feel way tankier in combat. I can just absorb way more damage. But where this mod becomes the most valuable right now, at least, is when it applies to that final perk in each perk tree. So you know how in Cyberpunk 2077, each perk tree has that one final perk that you get endlessly points into once you max out the appropriate skill? So for the vast majority of these, once you load a save game, so basically once you pick this but then save the game and then later on come back to the game to load it, it just breaks those perks. They'll stop working. Meaning that if you took one of these and put a bunch of points into one, it probably hasn't been working the whole time you're playing the game. It'll work the very first time you take it, but then after that, once you save a game and then load it again, it'll stop working forever. And of course, this mod will fix that. So for example, the Crazy Science perk makes it so the sell price of crafted items is higher. You can see here, it is working. My sell price is higher over what it was previously, but then after loading a save game, it's just lower because the perk broke since I loaded the game, but after you click the apply patch button with this mod, it'll go back to the appropriate price. This being super valuable with some perks, like you can see here, how much faster my RAM recuperates because that's what the final perk in the quick hacking tree does, and it wasn't working previously. So as of right now, this will affect all of the final perks in those perk trees, as well as those two other mods I did mention. In the future though, hopefully it'll start applying to even more of the broken perks as well as mods in this game, and maybe even just fix some, like that throwing knife perk that is absolutely stupid. Another pretty cool mod that's actually relevant to a video I just made is around Gorilla Arms, that with Gorilla Arms Extended. Gorilla Arms are shown off in some of the previews as being able to rip off guns, force open doors, but in the final build of the game, that isn't a functional feature, it just relies on your body attribute. Well, this mod will actually add that back in fact, as a bypass to the body attribute. So basically, if you have Gorilla Arms installed on your character and you hit an appropriate hotkey, it'll be like you have the appropriate body feature to force open a door or rip off a turret, even if your body is too low. On this character, it's 4, which typically would make me ineligible. It's pretty cool. It's like what we saw in those previews. Of course, this one might not be for everyone. It could be considered somewhat overpowered. And funny enough, I actually literally just covered this particular thing in my removed features from Cyberpunk video not too long ago. Another extremely valuable mod to keep in the background is Cyberpunk 2077 Audio Overhaul. You may have noticed this, and I definitely did. While playing Cyberpunk 2077, sometimes the audio mixing is just weird. The music will be too loud, making it hard to hear people, or just the music will be way louder than other tracks. From time to time, one track is just way louder. Well, basically, what this modder did was, over the past month, open up these individual files and tweak the audio files himself. So in the end, now he actually made it all a lot more balanced. In particular, some of that combat music isn't quite as overpowering as it was previously, and I definitely find this to be a positive change. It does have a rather large 11 gigabyte download size, which will without a doubt be prohibitive for some of you, but if you have the space or have the internet download speed, this is definitely a good one to just throw in the background. It'll slightly improve the experience overall and remove some of those otherwise frustrating sound mixes. Another pretty curious aspect of Cyberpunk 2077 is this thermal katana. The thermal katana was one of the select few weapons to be showcased prominently in some of the marketing material, most notably this trailer, except when you actually make your way into Cyberpunk 2077, you will discover you can't get one for yourself for one reason or another. But it actually is in the game. The model, at least for the thermal katana, is here, and more or less this mod will show you the steps to actually get this in your game. It involves converting a traditional katana to a thermal one, and it looks awesome. You have that different and familiar model, as well as after taking down enemies, you have some pretty cool steaming and fire effects on the katana itself, which to me easily makes this one of the best melee weapons you could actually get in the game. An extremely odd choice made with Cyberpunk 2077 was these 2D cars. As you probably noticed, when you see cars in the distance, typically the farther distance in Cyberpunk, they'll show up as these 2D sprites. It looked bad, and sometimes, especially if you're looking quite far on open land, you'll just see a bunch of them all at the same time. And it's even weird because the sprites are separate from actual cars. If they come closer to you, they'll just vanish because they don't ever transform into real cars. Well, the high distant 2D cars mod will basically just delete these. As for me at least, I think most of the time I would rather see no cars in the distance than have ones that will spontaneously vanish as they start to approach me. As of right now, we find ourselves with a particularly interesting point with Cyberpunk 2077. I just showed you a bunch of mods that are going to improve and fix your game, but over the next couple of weeks, hopefully CDPR is going to be doing so in a definitive way. There's still a lot of fixes to bugs, features, and of course crashes that these mods mods can't touch, and of course if you're a console user, none of this helps you anyway. The touted February patch is set to be the biggest yet, literally described as the bigger patch by CDPR, and I think it'll be extremely telling to see how much this actually improves performance, not only with fans, but also in the eyes of companies like Sony. Still can't get Cyberpunk on the PlayStation Store, and I imagine this patch is a major point they'll look at as to whether or not to restore that status. But we're starting to hit that point now, approaching 2 months after the release of the game, where modders are picking up the mantle, starting to figure out how to actually fix some of these features. And of course, in the case with the security flaw, literally fixing them first. Hopefully you guys found this one informative. There are lots of other mods that are actually adding in new features now, several new additions that just came out in the past week. I'm working on another big video looking at new stuff to the game that I should have out in the next week or so if you want to subscribe to see that. I do want to say another big thank you to today's video sponsor with Battle Legion. February is literally the second worst month as far as ad revenue, January being the worst, so sponsorships like this actually do genuinely help out the channel this time of year. With that said, I thank you all again for watching, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.